92 Harshad Mehta scam happened. Clients were unable to pay me. So I was left with a kind of like debit of around 1.5-2 crore to be paid to exchanges. And I was told by lots of my senior friends in stock market, when this thing happened, you have to declare yourself bankrupt. The market was just a jungle where people were after each other to finish them off. Mercedes introduced that G Wagon, which was a very costly car. So when I read about that, I was excited. But we did not had that kind of like resources, or I had that courage to ask my dad that can you buy me a G Wagon? But it got registered in my mind. I want to buy this.
That was your goal.
That was my goal. But it took many years for me to buy that G Wagon. I just bought it in 2017 or 18. Happiness is very relative, I would say. If your neighbors, your relatives are doing lesser than you, you are happy. And if you do double of what you have achieved and your relative are doing 4x, you're not happy. 2005 or 6 around, I was visiting a banker over here only in Kamala Mills. I came out from their office and there is an auto hanger showroom over there. So I saw an E-Class. So I did a window shopping. I went to the showroom, I want this car, I bought it. When I came to the office, I was making the payment, I realized that this kind of impulsive kind of behavior is not good for business.
Hello and welcome to I Did It My Way. Today on my podcast, I have someone who needs absolutely no introduction. He has changed the game in the broking business in India. Dinesh Thakkar is here with me. He heads Angel One. And Dinesh, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. It is an absolute pleasure to have you here, more because of your journey. Not so much your business right now, but what you have seen and how you have evolved in the last 30 years. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. My pleasure.
So, you've always been someone who has looked ahead and who has been ahead of the game. I remember with the conversation we had in, I think, 2017 or 2016, where you were looking to go digital in a big way. And at that time, the user penetration was also not very high, but you had that conviction. What led you to believe that digital will be the next big thing? Because now everyone knows you are the front runner in that space.
So yeah, let me take you back to say 97, 98, when there was an internet penetration and when I saw the market performance for past 10, 12 years, I saw that this equity was a really good asset class which can be used for compounding of wealth. Then I used to wonder why people are not coming to the market and investing in a big way in equity. I thought maybe they lack access to market. And that is where during internet, I thought everybody will come to the market through internet. But unfortunately, everybody did not have a PC, desktop. So my dream that, okay, this is going to happen, that people who are earning reasonable amount will come to the market and invest. Ultimately, they will realize compounding of 15, 16% they cannot get anywhere else. And that too, that does not require much of being an analyst or doing research in the market. Just invest in indices, and indices has given you 15, 16%. In fact, I remember by 2000, I think 1, 2, before dot-com bubble crisis, compounding was to the tune of 16, 17% plus dividend of 2%. So it was 18%.
Okay.
So in fact, I feel that is delayed kind of a thing that people have realized now. Equity is a good asset class to invest. Then comes a phase of digitization, where this government started opening up policies on digitized journey, eKYC, UPI payments and all that. That is where I think magic happened, where people got an access to market. They got an awareness about this asset class. And we saw that this population, which is beyond tier 3, who never had an access to market, because there was no branch offices or broker or even banks to serve their needs. That is where, as an angel, we realize that this is a bigger opportunity than what we have achieved in physical market. And that pie appears to be far bigger, larger. Like at that point in time, I feel demat penetration was around 1.5% of population. And when we look at people who had PAN card and had some reasonable saving, that number was more than 40 crores.
This was in which year?
Around 17, 18.
Okay.
So that is where we took a
Took a
step
decision.
that what we have captured is just a small pie, bigger pie is still left untouched. So this is a potential that we should be focusing on.
Okay. But let me start from the beginning. How did you get introduced to the market? What has your journey been like? I do know that you after grade 12 is when you stopped studying and then you sort of started working. And from then to now, where you're running a 20,000 crore market cap company, I'm sure it's been a fabulous journey. But take us through it all. Start from the
Sure,
beginning.
sure, my pleasure. Say like I was unable to complete my studies because I was very distracted. Because I used to feel that ultimately we want to serve certain needs, reach certain, achieve some goals. Studies was not leading me or giving me confidence that it is towards what I want to achieve. Maybe in hindsight, it may be a foolish decision. But what happens when you are confident that you want to do something and relevant topic or knowledge you can get across the way? So when I was thinking about doing business way back from standard 8 itself, in fact, I left my schooling in between, getting attracted towards starting some small business. But foolish of me, I would say, because that is not an age. So after 1 or 2 years, I realized that this is foolish of me. I should continue my study. But again, when I completed my junior college 12th, I thought, no, I'm wasting my time. In fact, I was applying for computer engineering. I got an admission. I don't know, it's a waste of 5 years.
So
Again,
it was
not that
never
I'm
market
saying it's the
related.
right decision,
Okay. It was never
but
stock market related though.
no, no, nothing at that point, nothing was there in my mind in stock related.
Okay.
So I come from a family who is into textile business. So initially was that okay, I can expand this family business. But then I realized when you join family business, there are certain rules, there are certain kind of like framework in terms of how much risk you can take. And coming from an era where were getting introduced, I was very excited to use power of computer. Never I knew how I'm going to use it, but I knew such a powerful tool. How can I use it in my business? Now, whatever business I start, I thought I need capital. Otherwise, if I take capital from my family, they are going to have their own norms, their own concerns. So, to get fully independent, I thought let me borrow some capital and come to this market and multiply that capital, that borrowed capital paid back, and put that money in business. It is just a wish list of any youth or any entrepreneur.
Hmm.
But actually, what happened when I came to the market, I saw it is not as easy as I thought. First of all, it was seller's market. Broker never should give any advice or never should even care to give a confirmation of orders that they have executed.
Hmm.
So they will give confirmation only in weekends. If they have made profit from whatever order they have executed for a client, they will never confirm. So I lost almost 50% of my capital. That is where I realized that okay, there is nobody who is serving needs of a beginner. Why don't I start business over here? And how do I create efficiency? Again, that mind which was thinking about technology thought about they are giving confirmation after 3 days, 4 days. I can give confirmation on real time basis. I will use a walkie talkie set. That was the first piece of technology I had used in this market.
Okay.
And my customers, whoever knew about that, I'm giving confirmation on real time basis, they got very excited and they came by word of mouth.
This was
Okay,
in which year?
that was around 90s, early 90s, that I had started this broking as a sub broker.
Okay.
I was not even a broker. I started with just 2, 3 clients. That too I got when we were chatting on that they used to have pan on this thing next to that BSE.
Yeah.
So if I want a client, I have to go there. I
Those are
never.
legendary stories, right?
Oh wow! Like I think unbelievable stories.
Yeah.
If you tell this generation, they will not believe
Mm.
all this kind of thing was happening. Market was just a jungle where people were after each other to finish them off, and
Really?
in that to survive was impossible. So coming back to my story, so I realized these customers are getting butchered. New customer to the market. So how do I use technology and give them more transparency, lesser price, and then slowly I was able to get lots of customers who started believing me, trusting me, gave them advisory free. At that time, advisory was charged. So that
Okay.
is how I started my journey in a stock as a stockbroker. And 91, I was able to build a decent business. And 92, this Harshad Mehta scam happened. So whatever I earned around, I had around 40, 50 lakh in a year that year. And that was also big money for me. And 92 Harshad Mehta scam happened. My clients were unable to pay me. So I was left with a kind of a like debit of around 1.5 to 2 crore to be paid to exchanges. And I was told by lots of my senior friends in stock market that when this thing happened, you have to declare yourself bankrupt. I told my family, nobody has done this. My parents would be after me that I told you not to go into this market. So I borrowed money from my friends to repay. And that money which I borrowed, I converted into a kind of a company which I floated then, which was known as Angel Broking, and gave them equity shares in that.
Wow,
So that
those
was an
friends,
initial phase.
those friends still have those shares, I'm sure.
Yeah, still they have. So what they had invested at that time, it was just a pocket money. Around I needed 1.5 crore, and 3 or 4 friends came together. They took out 40, 50 lakh. Today, value of that asset would be not less than 800, 900,000 crores.
Wow.
So they are happy.
Lucky to have friends like you. But of course, they supported you also in your
Yeah,
times of
exactly. So
need,
that
right?
is more important.
Yeah,
At that time, to support a person who is new to market,
correct.
who does not have knowledge about market in terms of how volatile, how risky it can be, they had trust in me, they had faith in me that your service, the way you are treating your customer, we love it. As I said, it was for them, it wasn't pocket money. So they told, don't worry, we'll pay this. And whenever you are able, return that back. So in 96, when I floated this company, I told, why don't you convert this into equity?
Correct, correct. You know, you're someone who there's a lot to learn from you, not just because of the spirit of entrepreneurship, but also because of the number of failures that you've seen along the way and never let it get to you, right? So, for that young entrepreneur, because today I think things are really very different. The startup ecosystem has also matured in a big way, the market has matured in a big way. For that young entrepreneur, what is your advice to him after all that you have seen in your journey?
See, what I've learned from my journey is that if I look at young Dinesh, he was very kind of like ambitious, maybe short sighted, and thinks that whatever vision or goal I had, there's a linear path to that. There's no linear path to that. Today, when I'm coming to this show, you're talking to me, or someone else appreciates my journey, you are having a bird's eye view of what I did. But when that young entrepreneur starts their journey, he's in a tunnel. He does not know what is happening around, only has a visibility about the final goal, an opportunity that he has seen, opportunity that lured him towards coming to this point of starting their own business. But they have to be ready to grind. Path is not going to be straight, simple, or as easy as they had envisaged initially. That entrepreneur has to be ready for grind. Whenever that person feels like I have failed, I have not achieved what I wanted to, or there can be some external factor, like in my case, Harshad Mehta scam, Ketan Parekh scam, lots of regulatory changes, global financial crisis. All these things are going to happen. So one has to, in that point, when that person fails or is unable to achieve that success what he anticipated, he has to look at that opportunity, why he started this business or why he started that startup. If that is still clearly there, or that opportunity is as big as he thought, then he has to grind more, has to understand what is going to make him successful or make her successful. So people who are looking at my journey, they feel like it is easy. It was never easy.
Of course not. And during the Harshit Mehta scam, you could have easily given up, right? I mean, you lost a lot of money and you had to borrow from your friends. So at that point, you could have given up on your journey very easily, but you didn't. What kept that conviction going?
Conviction that this equity corporate overall was giving excellent content return, and there are so many people who have not come to the market. If they come to the market, what kind of like revenue I can generate? So that motivated me to see that figure. Okay, if at all this 40, 50 crores people come to the market, even half of them come to the market, what kind of revenue I can generate? So always it appears that what I have lost is very small amount, and what can be achieved is far bigger. So I feel that that is what I am saying, that entrepreneur, when they are doing all this startup and all that, no, they have to grind a lot. They have to have that conviction that opportunity is still there and I'm inching towards that. So one way of looking at it is that when you have started something, are you gaining any meaningful market share? bit more users. Like when I started my journey, I just got 2 customers. What I saw is that after 1 month, I had 50 customers. That people are enjoying my journey. People are enjoying
You're
my
doing something
service,
right.
doing something right. So we have to continue with that journey. Results you will see after 7 years, 10 years.
So, I want to come back to this call you took. It was a big call, right? To completely move to digital in 2018. And this was just before the pandemic. So, kind of that really helped you because people were then sitting at home. But if you had to look 10 years into the future from now, what do you see as the big change in this whole landscape?
I think what we did and what we have achieved in broking is just a beginning of digitization of personal finance. Today, people are ready to trade, invest on app. But look at the youth, or maybe people who have not got kind of an access to financial market the way lots of privileged people have got. Asset is same in terms of compounding. Then we talk about insurance. See, this youth is more about spending on experiences. They borrow money, unlike previous generation. When they're doing all that now, they need lots of guidance in terms of are they borrowing right amount? Are they over leveraging or are they under leveraging also? So I feel that future lies in using all this kind of an AI ML tool where we profile a customer when he onboards or she onboards, look at what earning they have. So what we are onboarding, majority of the customer are of the age of 21, 22, 23. That means they have got their first salary. So with this use of AA, we are able to get bank statements and all that. Easily I can scan and say that what this person's salary is or income is, how they are spending. If I am able to apply all kind of prudent financial kind of like discipline and principles, I can guide this person better on an app without spending on an RM or a kind of an expert advisory services. So that is where I think market is moving towards, where people from tier 3 beyond, they never had an access to market. Forget about knowledgeable person guiding them. Till today, what has happened? RMs have sold product based on what they want to sell for their benefit. Nobody has given a solution which is good for a customer. An app, if you are able to design it properly, if you are able to put intelligence properly, if you give all the wisdom that is there in the market, it can be applied to each and every profile based on their journey in their life. And we can give a accurate solution time and again. Even telling them whether your investment is performing, whether you are insured to the tune of what EMI you are paying and all that can be done on an app without any extra cost. That is where I feel future is. I get very excited. People feel that you have achieved a lot. I feel this is just a beginning.
So, you are saying specialized products at an affordable cost is where the future lies.
Specialized and intelligent app. This is a dumb app. What we are using, it does not have its mind.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have to build this app which has intelligence, lots of intelligence, which is connected to the whole ecosystem. Be it
So we're not there
insurance.
yet. We don't have such.
No, not at all.
Okay. Because I'm asking because now if you look at the younger generation, right, 20 to 30, maybe 35, they've become very savvy, and most of them use apps like Angel One. Of course, there's Grow, there's Zerodha, which are picking up in a big way. What are you guys doing right that traditional, broking businesses are not doing?
One, I feel that everybody is looking at the app. Are we able to use right technology for an app? I would say app or a web is just a kind of like top layer. What is important is that how you build the engine. It is like a tip of an iceberg. Iceberg lies between. Have you able to build an engine which is able to analyze, process, understand what a customer needs? Are you able to be in their whole life kind of like journey when they're doing some activity on social media or they're doing some other activity, capture those activity, try to nudge them towards the right direction? That is digitization. Using of app is not a digitization. Using as app is just an interface.
Correct.
I'm a car person. So, okay.
I know. I want to talk about that also.
We'll talk about that. So, body of the car would be same, but depends on which engine and how you configure that engine.
Correct.
So, what we do when a customer is, before in onboarding, we know who this customer is, what they are looking for, and be in their kind of journey from the day that person does not even know that we have been tracking in terms of what kind of an activity this person is doing, and what are the solutions I can provide. So at some nudge, they would say, yeah, this app is good for me, is able to give me a good kind of a solution. Then it becomes active. If I say I'll open a branch office, client will come to me and I'll give a good app, you are not going to go into a deeper pockets of India.
Okay, Dinesh, tell us about the numbers, right? In terms of onboarding of customers, earlier you were giving me some fabulous stats about how much you used to spend on, say, TV, print, and now how much you spent on digital media. Tell our viewers that where have the eyeballs moved to, and how much do you spend on each, platform?
So being a listed company, I would not be able to give you much of the number on that, but I can tell you
Don't give
that,
us numbers, just give us a
yeah,
ballpark understanding of which way
broad
things are headed.
broadly, I can tell you that kind of an amount that we were spending, say, in 2012-15 in media advertisement and all that, now that we spend on other medias would be almost like 10 to 12x more than what we were spending previously on advertisement. And now if I club that performance marketing, again it's a kind of an advertisement and all that, that number would be quite huge.
So you're saying traditional media is like TV, print is now is dying? Is that a fair way to look at it, or are things changing in a different way? I'm just trying to understand the landscape now.
See, if I look at youth behavior now, they are not on TV. But when you look at certain activity, they may be watching through TV with family and all that. But otherwise, I think if we talk about consuming any content, they are happy to consume on their laptop or their phone. So most of the spend that most of the companies are doing goes on those platforms.
Hmm.
So I would not say it is dying, but growth over there is quite slow, I would say,
Okay.
compared to growth in digital world.
Okay.
It's like a broking business. Traditional business is growing at the rate of say 15-20%. But digital players are growing at 50-60%. That is 15%, that is 50%. That's such a big
It's a
difference.
huge difference. So you were telling me that the way forward for a broking business now is getting into specialized. The app should be specialized for a customer, right? And of course, at affordable prices. Get a little more into details there. I mean, how does one, if an entrepreneur is starting their journey now in the digital broking business, what should their focus be?
I think they should look beyond broking. See, in 2021, although we were very successful in broking, 19 we went fully digital. 2021 our numbers were really phenomenal. But that is a point where we decided that when a person is coming on an app, we should look at total journey. What is the requirement of this person who is onboarding? It is beyond trading and investment. He, that person should get all the services like credit, fixed income, insurance, everything on the same platform. Because when you onboarded a customer, you are getting lots of information of this customer. So I think for a person who wants to start broking now in this era, they should think 5 years, 10 years ahead from here. So if you try to compete a big players, would be futile exercise, I would say. You cannot build any kind of like USP in trading, broking. This is what I believe. You may be targeting a niche market, that is okay. But if you want masses, you have to look at needs which current brokers are unable to serve them. That is, I would say, having a consolidated profile of a customer, working out total need of this customer, and saying, hey, these are the products what I can give you at a reasonable price, say for borrowing. Today, customers like youth is ready to borrow personal loans and all that, but they are taking at a phenomenal prices, which according to me, when a person is onboarded new to credit, he or she may go for a higher rate, but within a year they develop this credit history. Based on that credit history, I can offer them same kind of a loan from some other vendor or some other NBFC at a lower price. Nobody's doing it. Nobody has time. But app has a time, can scan the market, can again recheck a credit score of this person and say, hey, you are going to get this loan at this price if you switch. And there's no kind of a low cost for switching that.
Is that the future of the Angel One app as well? I mean, are you looking to
Yeah,
get
we are
all this?
looking far beyond that, not just credit, fixed income, insurance also. We're trying to see how we can digitize and do that journey.
Mm.
See, as I said, digital journey is far more kind of proactive in terms of serving the needs of user, which has never happened in India or across the globe, I also would say.
Right.
That is something user will like. Why they like broking on a digital format? First of all, pricing. Second, ease of having an access, ease of getting research, ease of getting educational content. Similarly, in other fields also, somebody has to think a disruptive way of serving a customer's need. See, this overall financial service market is not going to grow in a big way. It will grow at, say, 18-20%. But digital players are able to grow at 50-60%. Reason being, they are disrupting existing way the users are using their services. If somebody is able to give a better kind of an approach, better way of using that same service, they're going to get a big market share from existing pie, plus what growth is happening, incremental market share of that player would be higher.
And when you when you look at competitors, right? How are you feeling about that? Is there enough and more space for a Grow, a Zerodha, and Angel One to grow simultaneously, or is one eating into the other? Is the pie growing?
Yes, the pie is growing because if you look at customer base that we are acquiring, that would be true for all my competition also because I'm not privy to their data. Almost 85% customer are new to market. That means we are not acquiring customer from anybody. What I believe is that as I look at the opportunity today, we have around 14-15 crore of demat account. And if you look at people who are holding PAN account and having some reasonable kind of an association with bank or account or having some saving, that number is more than 60 crore. And in 15 crore also, active customer base is just 3 to 4 crore.
Correct.
So there is no
People have
need to
multiple
look
demat
at each
accounts
other.
as well.
In fact, what I feel, we need more player who are actually enablers, who are able to expand the market. That is needed. So when a big player announces that I'm coming to the market, I feel happy because alone one player cannot expand this as much as potential is there. We need more player to do marketing. See, when you acquire a customer now, how you are able to acquire? Because you are marketing, you are visible, you are creating content. So awareness of this asset class that is giving a compounding of 15-16%. If it reaches to the maximum people, why they will put long-term funds in bank and just earn 6%?
Correct.
So perception of this market or this asset class is it is risky. It is not risky, it is volatile. And there are tools to mitigate that. It can be time. If you are investing more than 5 years, easily you can gain that kind of like appreciation. If you're able to diversify your portfolio. So many people may feel that, okay, I'm not an expert. I don't know which stock to buy. You have to just buy index stocks. You have to buy just ETFs and regularly invest in that so that you get an average price. And that average price and that portfolio is giving you 15-16% appreciation. What else do you want? Then they will say, I never knew this. As a youth, if you invest just 5% of your salary and continue till the time of retirement, that capital would be enough to give you earning equivalent to your last salary, in fact more. But you start this journey later at 35, 40, it's mission impossible.
Correct.
Even if you invest 50% of your salary, you are not going to reach that target. All that awareness, who will do? People like us, new player, that requires big spends.
Absolutely. Dinesh, what really stands out for me is through your journey, right? You've managed to stay relevant through different mediums. First, we started off with print, then there was TV. We were talking about these investor camps that we used to have. Now we've moved to, we're sitting here on a podcast. How does one stay relevant through decades? Has it been tough? I mean, because the younger generation is evolving by the minute, right? Things are changing. Do you make a special effort to sort of stay relevant?
I would say it appears to be difficult or complex, it is not. See, if you can spot one bee and you want to know where is the beehive now, you have to follow that bee. No need to you to be expert on how to really get to their this thing beehive and all that. So what I believe, what I have done in my life is that track users what they are doing. Their need is same. I don't think 30 years back people were saying I don't want compounding. Today also people want some wealth creation opportunity, some trading opportunity. Now we have to look at how users are consuming or coming to the market. So when I started my career, they were coming to BSc building, who were high traders, and people who were far off, they were using phones. So I have to make sure that I have good kind of like capacity in terms of people calling me and office where I can accommodate people. These people moved to internet. I had to develop solution on internet. So no need I have to be techie for that. If I'm clear now user have moved to internet, I have to get people who are expert on internet technologies. That is where we first time in our industry we build web-based back office having an access 24 by 7. We're first in the industry. Then when 15, 16 we saw users are moving to mobile. So to get experts who can build mobile solutions. That is where we started recruiting people from Amazon and all that who have built the solutions. Now I have to be just clear where users are going. I have to just track what users are doing. That is how I become relevant.
Okay,
If
interesting.
tomorrow they move to augmented reality and all that, I would just track them and then get engineers. Please build a solution for this platform.
So do you think that that's the future where people are going to move to
No,
augmented
it
reality?
is too early. Too early. I think it is more about like very novelty value. Right now, I don't see any use case.
Okay. But I want to also talk, I mean, before we, get to other things, I want to talk a little more about your own journey. Um, uh, you know, Everyone knows about your liking for cars and supercars. And I wanted to start by asking you, before I get to cars, start by asking you, were you born into wealth? Did your family always have money? And how has your relationship with money changed over the last, say, 10 years?
It's a very good question. First of all, we are well to do as we come from textile business, but I never associated myself to be like what my family have achieved. I would say I always believed that our life should be managed, whatever standard you want to maintain for your life should be managed through your own earning. So from early age, that thing was clear. I want to earn and then decide my standards, not based on what my family is responsible only to help you in terms of your education, in terms of basic needs. But after that, if you have a high aspiration, it should be your own earning.
Okay. So from the beginning, you said that you were well to do. You never had any, you never saw any bad times as far as money was concerned, or did you? I'm not talking about the Harshad Mehta time, but during your childhood.
No, I'm saying about childhood. Till the time I was with my parents, it is not that I saw bad times. It's a very relative term.
Hmm.
If you have a very high aspiration, then you will not be happy with what you have. For example, when I was in, I would say almost towards 10th or something, must be 78 or 79, Mercedes introduced that G Wagon, which was a very costly car. So when I read about that, I was excited. But we did not had that kind of like resources, or I had that courage to ask my dad that can you buy me a G Wagon? But it got registered in my mind. I want to buy this.
That was your goal.
That was my goal. But took many years for me to buy that G Wagon. I just bought it in 2017 or 18.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to say, it's a relative term that if at all your aspirations are lesser than what family is providing, you are the happiest person.
Mm.
Even if somebody is born in a richest of family, if their aspirations are very high, they will get happiness only if they are able to meet that or surpass that goals. So my case was like that. My aspirations were very high, but I was very realistic and a grounded person.
Mm.
I will never ask anything from my parents, but if I want something, now I have to work hard. That actually inspired me to go through this grind.
So what does money mean to you now? Does it give you the
From
kind of
beginning,
happiness?
Sonia, money never was important. If you ask me, what thrilled me, if money was important, when after Harshad Mehta crisis, I would have declared myself bankrupt. That was a norm in the market. If you are unable to pay, it's okay. Lots of bigger broker than me, far bigger broker than me, they were unable to pay. They declared themselves bankrupt. So in fact, lots of this broking community approached me also in the evening when I was decided to pay, okay, that we are your friend. You are taking a foolish decision. But money was never important to me. What was important to me that if tomorrow uh, my son has to face this situation where they say your dad did not pay to the market, I was fearing all that. I should never get into a situation where my son is unable to reply that why he ran away from the market. He cannot say it is normal because in our family it does not happen. So my point is that money never attracted. What attracted me that time also when I borrowed also, I was never worried. I was looking at some success. Okay, first success, like I would give example like when I borrowed this 1.5 crore, when I saw first success, few more clients joining me, I was excited. I was happy. 96 also, as I said, when I actually went for membership of BSE, that's the first time Till that time, I was a sub broker. I was very excited. That was also through a borrowed money. So never I felt that that money is important for me. I earned this much. I earned, then I borrowed more, bought this membership. So always my relation with money is that I want to see success. If it is available, I will borrow more.
So why do you think the youth of today are so unhappy compared to the youth of say 2 decades ago?
As I said, relative. If at all they have an aspiration more because of social media, what is happening? They are seeing just one, I would say, positive part of someone. So they feel that they are more successful, they have achieved more. I am struggling. So that's the reason. If at all you achieve lesser than what you've anticipated or what your people around have achieved, then you are not happy. Always happiness is very relative, I would say. If your neighbors, your relatives are doing lesser than you are happy. And if you do double of what you have achieved and your relative are doing 4x, you're not happy.
Do you face that even now?
Now I see people, I never face because I never compared myself with anybody. See, from not childhoods, in fact, when I started into market, I always believed I am like more successful than any successful person in a corporate world. So maybe that kind of an like feeling helped me to be happy, be motivated.
But is that how does that come? I mean, do you cultivate that? Do you do a lot of reading? Do you have mentors? I mean, because that needs some kind of it's like a habit, right? You need to practice it.
But if I tell you, you will not believe. Until today, I haven't read a book.
Not a single book.
Yeah, so that's the reason many times I really question myself. This kind of an entrepreneurship is can be taught or it is by birth.
Do you have any mentors?
No mentors. Till the time when I say I should not be sounding egoistic, but that is how I don't want to be influenced by anyone. Because what happens when you look at the people around, competition, your relatives, and all that, your mind gets influenced.
Correct.
I always believed in my ideas
So where do you draw your inspiration
from people around, talking to you, talking to other people, talking to you, talking to users. Then I decide, this is the right way. Then I tell my people that, I think this is what has to be done. From day one, it is like that. So many times when actually I remember 2008 when IFC approached us to invest in our company. So very senior person from Washington flew down and they was asking me who's your mentor. I should not be sounding very egoistic. I don't follow anyone. So they were surprised. What is this answer? I believe that if I can see clarity in terms of what user wants, and if I can work out what's the solution really relevant to this person, and talk to market that who would be able to provide this solution, I think that is right. Don't get influenced. When internet trading was getting started, we had lots of forums when we were discussing what internet can do. In that forum, lots of people were well read about internet. They were talking about security systems and all that. So I was wondering, इतना knowledge के बाद ये लोग ही successful होंगे. I don't see that names.
Really?
So many times, many people have knowledge, but they are unable to have that kind of an like courage or
And vision.
dedication or determination to go through that kind of an like grit or that kind of an like I would say hard work without seeing results.
Maybe that actually helped you because you cut through all the noise, right? You never listened to anybody, you never read any book, so it didn't influence your decision in any way.
I believe so. That's the reason even in broking circle, you will not see I socialize much. So maybe recently I have started like meeting few people. Otherwise I was invisible. Nobody knew me. So whenever I used to open like branch office anywhere, people from competition used to join and they used to say that he is nobody's very small broker. But I used to know in every geography, I used to be number one. I get numbers.
Correct.
I'm looking at numbers. My users have validated. Users have liked me. I don't want anybody else's kind of like praises.
But have you realized, because recently I've noticed that you have started building your own personal brand a bit more as well. Do you think this is an era where building your personal brand helps you with your business too?
I don't believe so because I
Maybe it
believe.
attaches some credibility.
No,
I
I
don't
will
know.
just explain it probably why I don't believe so. Because I believe to build your personal brand and also requires some kind of like dedication of time and all that. But there are two things. Either you are doing it for business, I think then pay attention to what user wants, give them solution. It will work equally good. And many people believe that our brand should be visible, means in terms of who promoter is, what is his thought process. I think which is reflected in services that we give. Now, coming out and talking about our brand, not I'm talking about company, about as a promoter, I think it is very less relevant.
Mm.
It is more for when you reach a stage when your people want, my team wants others to know who is a promoter and how he thinks and all that. This is relevant to that tune.
Okay.
To for people who are joining me, who are dealing with me, so they know that okay, who is a promoter. Otherwise, when company is small, they are meeting me, they are talking to me.
Mm.
There are lots of occasion when they engage and interact with me. But now because we are into digital era where we are serving
Correct.
more than 2 crore customer, I can't meet everybody.
Yeah, of
So
course.
now this becomes a better platform for me to really introduce myself, to talk about me, who we are, what is our DNA, what our ethos.
So, what's the next in the journey of Angel One? I mean, if you've had a fabulous 3 decade long journey where you've gone from, a brick and mortar business, so to speak, to this digital era, you've been a pioneer there. What is next in the transformation journey?
I believe it is just a beginning because as I said that still this app is dumb app. It has to get intelligent. I'm very clear about that. I tell my engineers that we have to look at how we can use AI/ML. See, today AI/ML is very loosely used term. It's not that we have really gone deep into how this can benefit to users or how it can create more efficiency in our business. So I would say time will come when this all this app would be having lots of intelligence about ecosystem, about offering in the market, and understanding about customer who is onboarding the app.
Mm.
So Angel is very much kind of like involved in that. Today, in a year time, we have recruited, I would say not built, recruited around 120 people in data science,
Mm.
which was zero 1 year back. So I believe that if we are able to use all these tools, make this app intelligent, and sell multiple products, we would be able to generate lots of revenue. We should not be looking at revenue per transaction.
Mm.
We should be looking at lifetime value of a customer, how we add value and how we generate revenue from that. See, previously customers used to stay in our branch office maybe for 2 or 3 years and then switch to something else because they came only for trading. At that time, that era was when interest from bank used to be 10, 11%. Now in this era when bank is offering you just 5, 6%, I think this youth or these people who are coming onboarding, they need lots of kind of nudges, intelligence in terms of their full personal finance journey.
Mm.
And for us to earn more than what we have spent on acquiring customer is quite easy
Mm.
if we are focused on needs of the user rather than our needs, our revenue.
Correct.
So this journey has started, I would say. I'm very excited for this journey forward.
I'm very excited for you. I mean, it's been a great journey. I've known you for so many years and I'm happy to see you shine. But let's talk about the fun aspects of your life. You're a motorhead. And when did you start, when did you kind of figure out your love for cars?
1978 when I saw this G wagon, but I understood I don't have resources for that. So then what happened one day, like when I started this stock market business in 91, 92, earned first 2.5 lakh. So I bought a Fiat, black Fiat. So I'd seen that black Fiat with one of my client who used to come to my office. So I used to always wonder, this is a good car. So then I was happy with this car. Bought few other cars like Premier Padmani, 118 NE and all that. You might not be knowing these names because
I
you're
know,
not
I
even
know.
born at that time. So then 2000, I think 2005 or 6 around, I was visiting a banker over here only in Kamala Mills. I came out from their office and there is an auto hanger showroom over there. So I saw an E-Class. So I did a window shopping. I went to the showroom. I want this car. I bought it. When I came to the office, I was making the payment. I realized that this kind of impulsive kind of like behavior is not good for business. From that day, I stopped visiting any automobile
Why is it
showroom
not good?
because it takes away your time. Because I'm so passionate about cars, that means I would love to drive, go for road trips and all that. I wanted to resist that kind of temptation till the time my business grows.
Okay. And what's the most expensive car in your fleet now?
Let me continue. So then in 2015, I decided I want to spend something on my time on my passion. So I appointed a CEO internal, Vinay Agrawal. So I told that you take this responsibility. Now we look into which cars to buy. So I started with Mini Cooper. First I bought a Mini Cooper. So I went for a drive with my wife to Goa. And at high speed, I saw it is not braking properly. At 110, 120, it is not easy like for Mini Cooper to stop immediately. So then I went and bought AMG GT, which is a sports car. So I loved that. Then next I thought, oh, it's still like I want better handling. So I went for Lamborghini Performante, which is a track car. So then again, journey did not stop. As I knew myself, I'm very impulsive buyer. So then I went and bought a Porsche. Then I went and bought a Ferrari. So I have multiple cars now with multiple brands. In that brand also, I have lots of different cars. Like Lamborghini, I have Stirato, which is the latest car, which has good ground clearance and all that. So only few pieces in India.
When
I
did you
have
buy the Stirato?
Stirato. I bought just 2 months back.
Okay.
Yeah,
How's the
means I
drive?
booked it 1 year back. Customization takes time. It takes around 1 year for them to customize and send it to India. So that's an excellent car, good ground clearance, a right car for Bombay roads.
Is that the most expensive you own?
Most expensive, yeah. Right now it is Stirato and even Ferrari is same.
Okay.
Yeah, so both are very expensive. But all these cars are very expensive,
Yeah.
except for maybe Porsche is bit lower than Ferrari and Lamborghini. But Lamborghini and Ferrari would be at par.
And how does your wife feel about all your car purchases? She's also in on it?
No, she is not a car person. She is a very good companion. So she would like to drive with me, go wherever I want to go. But if you see at sports car, no, it is not good for passenger. It's a hard car. But still she will support me. So I have driven everywhere from Bombay to Goa, like I used to go regularly. Bombay to Udaipur, Delhi, Jaipur, Agra Triangle. We went to Leh Ladakh for 21 days.
But does
So
it give you the same high now to buy cars that it did when you maybe could not afford as much?
no, in fact, now it gives me more joy because I'm not constant. See, when I bought first car, also I was thinking, I was telling that person, no, because that time he was saying, go for Ferrari. No, my budget is around 2 crore. I would not go. Ferrari is 5 crore. So now, like when I buy luxuries that I don't have to think about what is the price tag. I just look at what I want. So now I get very unique cars. Previously it was off the shelf. Now when you customize a car, you have to increase your budgets. So now it gives me more happiness, more freedom I have to choose, select my colors, my configuration.
So money does give you happiness at the end of the day.
Not money, it is passion of car, which requires money.
Yeah.
If it is available free, I don't need money. Nobody needs
No,
money that way.
exactly. Then it'll have no value
Yeah.
also.
So what happens when I say money gives me happiness? That means if I lose something, I will feel disappointed. I have never felt disappointed. I have lost money many times. Many times in my life, I have lost more than my capital. So I don't remember any day when actually I was tense. I came home that I lost money. My wife never knew I lost money. She used to come to know only through my relative who was in my company. So she said that today we lost money. Then she said, no, things were normal at home.
How do you deal with stress?
One thing is that maybe like I do lots of kind of like exercise, listening to music. That is one way I would say. Not that it helps a lot, but I think only way it helps is that when you get up next morning, still you see that okay, there is some purpose in life now, and you work towards that. No, you feel happy. This is what I feel today. Also, when I wake up, I know there is some plan for me for next 5 years, 10 years. I feel happy. I feel excited.
And you are doing a lot to give back to the system as well, right? You encourage a lot of young entrepreneurs. You give back to the whole ecosystem. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that is a kind of like I'm very passionate about. See what happens when you build certain platform and you have gone through that journey. When I talk to lots of entrepreneurs, they are half baked, but they have lots of traits like me. They want to achieve success, but they have not gone through that journey. So I feel with the resources, experience I have, I can be their best partner. So whenever I spot somebody, I try to make all professionals entrepreneurs. That is a big problem with me. Though after some years they like it. So when they work and few people who have left my organization, they write a message to me that your environment was very good. Now we understand difference between doing a job and being a partner. So whenever I spot
So you would
some,
advise entrepreneurship for everyone over
yeah,
having a
yeah.
job?
But you should have a good mentor. You should have good framework. So what I've seen in many youth, they have not seen this journey of an entrepreneurship. So for them, if somebody creates a proper framework within which they can really have freedom, that is going to help. So that will keep them on track in terms of what they want to achieve. If they deviate, get distracted, there has to be someone who creates some very loose framework, not very tight one. If it's tight one, then you are doing what you have done. I want to allow them in terms of their innovation, but put some kind of like guardrails that they are within that. And they are going beyond that. I always encourage them to have a discussion. We can have differences. We can debate also. Let us bring some logic, some data. Not that data is going to work. Not that you have to prove something on paper, but I should be able to make you aware about what risk you are carrying. If you're okay with that risk, please go ahead.
Okay, Dinesh, it was a pleasure. I didn't realize how 1 hour has passed, but it has.
Is
Thank you
it?
so much. It was really fun talking to you, learning so much, and all the best to you with everything, your entrepreneurial journey, your, giving back to society, and of course, all your motorhead experiences with all your latest cars. I hope you continue to progress.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching CNBC TV 18. For all the latest news and updates, do follow us on our social media platforms.